Tyson Fury's dad, John Fury, has been on television here in the UK saying that he wants his son to retire right now. No undisputed fight, no none of that. Retire right now, at the top. John Fury, being a former professional fighter himself, he was around in the Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson era. And obviously, being a man of a certain age, he grew up watching boxing in the 70s and 80s and all that kind of stuff. And he saw many great fighters carry on for too long. Carry on when they didn't have to. They'd made all their money. They'd won all their big fights. They'd created a legacy for themselves. But they got the boxing bug and they didn't quit at the top. They carried on and carried on, and eventually they got beaten and their legacies were subsequently tarnished. And I think that that's why John Fury is urging his son to retire now, because he wants his son to be a unique champion. I mentioned this in a separate video, but when Lennox Lewis first became WBC World Heavyweight Champion, both him and his manager Frank Maloney said that Lewis's goal was to become undisputed champion, have one defense of the undisputed title, and then retire. And that would make him a unique champion. It would put him next to Rocky Marciano as the only other heavyweight champion to have retired undefeated. And it would seem that's what John Fury wants. Now, I know there's a lot of Tyson Fury fans out there who are very, very high on his latest win, and they should be, because it was a fantastic win. It was one of the best performances I've ever seen in my lifetime in a world heavyweight title fight. But if you know boxing history, you'll know that many, many incredible fighters in the past have lost. Boxing is a numbers game. There is no such thing as an invincible fighter. Tyson Fury is a guy who tends to rise to the level of his opposition. If he carries on for another 3, 4, 5 years and he's fighting mandatories and he's doing unifications, voluntaries, etc., how long is it before we see another Otto Wallin performance? Are we really going to expect consistency from Tyson Fury in terms of his level of performance from now until he retires if he goes on for another 3, 4 years? Because if you look at his history, he hasn't been consistent. He's always had these peaks and troughs in his performance level throughout his career since the very beginning. It's a reflection of the kind of character Tyson Fury is mentally. He's an erratic character. Sometimes Tyson Fury wakes up and he feels ecstatically happy. Other days he wakes up and he's down in the dumps. He doesn't even know himself how he's going to feel from day to day. Somebody with that type of personality, I'm skeptical about how consistent they can be in the long run at the top of the division, defending world titles year in, year out, defense in, defense out. I'm skeptical about how consistent he can be. I personally am 100% convinced that if Tyson Fury was to carry on as world champion for the next 3, 4 years, he's going to take at least one loss. It might even be a big upset loss. It might be to an Otto Wallin type guy. I'm not saying Wallin specifically, but somebody who Fury thinks is going to be an easy fight. Everybody thinks it's going to be easy. Fury tends to fight to the level of his opposition. He goes in there against someone unheralded. Oh no, shocking upset. And I think John Fury knows that as well. He knows that his son is inconsistent. He knows that great fighters in the past have gone on too long. They should have bowed out at the top. I mean, Roy Jones being a great example. Roy Jones did have a loss on his record, of course, a disqualification loss to Montel Griffin. But really the peak of Jones's career, he wasn't at his absolute best in terms of being in his prime, but in terms of achievement, the peak of Roy Jones's career was when he won a version of the world heavyweight title against John Ruiz. If he'd bowed out at that moment after beating Ruiz, there would be far more people making an argument that Roy Jones Jr. is the greatest fighter of all time. But Roy Jones carried on after that John Ruiz fight, and he suffered multiple knockout defeats. And towards the end of Jones's career, he basically became a journeyman. That tarnished Roy Jones's legacy, because now subsequent generations after Roy Jones's prime remember him for being this guy who just gets knocked out by everybody. Now, I'm not saying anything that extreme would happen to Tyson Fury, but it could be similar to, let's say, Sugar Ray Leonard. He carried on longer than he should have carried on. He ended up losing to the likes of Hector Camacho and Terry Norris, when really and truly in his prime, he wouldn't have lost to those guys. So, and again, with Tyson Fury, it's not just about him fighting on past his prime. It's about the fact that he's inconsistent anyway. Yeah. Mentally, he's erratic. He's inconsistent. So I think this is what his dad John is concerned about. He'd rather he retire now. His legacy, I'm sure John believes it's set in stone. The only way that I think John Fury might change his tune about Tyson Fury and his legacy and whether he should fight on is if AJ goes on to become a dominant fighter in the division and beats everybody. Maybe he fights Wilder, maybe he fights Daniel Dubois, maybe he fights Hrgovic and all the top guys, Joey Parker. You know what I mean? If he goes on to fight all these people and beat all these people, and everybody's saying, actually, AJ's the best and so on and so forth, then maybe John would say, you know what? Nah, my son can come out of retirement and beat Anthony Joshua. But failing that, John Fury will probably be happy and remain happy with his son retiring right now and feel like his legacy is set in stone. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about John Fury saying his son should retire now. I think most British boxing fans would be against it because they at least want to see the undisputed fight. Even the Fury fans who believe that Tyson Fury would destroy Anthony Joshua, even they want to see the undisputed fight just to silence all the AJ fans. Yeah? So I don't think there are going to be many people who actually are on the same page as John Fury right now, saying that, Tyson should retire. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's Hatman, I'm out.